Welcome back. Our next guest, you may already be a fan of, and I guarantee you, if you weren't already, you will be by the end of the interview. We're going to be joined right now by Angie Harrington. She is an amazing mom of 3 and has 2 additional children from her husband's life before. So a total of 5 children, really. And she is no stranger to the neurodiverse community, but she's one of our newest members as a parent of a child who has been diagnosed with autism. As I said, you may already be a fan because you may have seen her on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, which she recently made a hard decision and announced that she would be leaving the show because her youngest son has been officially diagnosed with autism. We're going to talk to her about what that was like getting a diagnosis at the tail end of COVID and what it was like leading up to it, plus all of the other things that she has going on in her family and what her plans are for the future. But let's welcome an amazing, talented young woman, Angie Harrington, to the program. Angie, thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Hi, everyone.
We're so excited. We've been watching, and of course, we saw the announcement that you were going to be leaving the show. And I think for a lot of us who are also parents of neurodiverse individuals, our heart pulled. And I think the amount of respect we felt for you just went through the roof because, you know, you're a working woman doing a lot of different things. You're a fashion influencer. If people have not watched already, they should go to @Angie Harrington and take a look your videos. I was saying to you before, you're beautiful. You're a Barbie. You can wear absolutely anything. And watching you get dressed and layer it is exciting. I'm learning from you. But, you know, you're working and then this thing comes along out of nowhere. And you made the tough decision to say, I need to focus on my family and on my kids. So let's talk about that a little bit. How did this lead up? What were the signs that you were seeing? How was COVID impacting it? How did you eventually get to the diagnosis?
So my son Hart was born in 2019, and he started walking at 9 months and running very shortly after. And that was a very big surprise to my husband and I, because our other children did not develop physically that fast. But then we noticed so he was very fast in that way, but we noticed other milestones he wasn't hitting, like speech or pointing at things that he needed or communicating that he needed something. And so we felt a little bit concerned, but as you know, all children develop at different times. So I think at the time we just thought, well, let's just watch it. And then during COVID, we took him into the pediatrician and he recommended we see an autism specialist because his daughter, who was an adult, ironically, was just diagnosed with autism. And he thought, you know, there were small signs that we didn't notice. So I'm just kind of telling all my patients to take their children to be tested if they have any question. And so we did a Zoom meeting because it was during COVID. And the doctor, the specialist, watched him through the camera and picked up on some things, but wasn't sure, didn't feel comfortable making an official diagnosis then. So we had to wait another year before we could take him into the office. And that's where he was officially diagnosed within about 2 hours. We had filled out a lot of paperwork, but then right there in the office, he said, yep, your son has mild to moderate autism. And so from there, we got in the car, and I remember it was a very heavy feeling, simply because it was our new normal. And I think we just needed a minute to adjust to that reality. Now that we've adjusted, you know, we celebrate it. There are definitely hardships, but there are things that will really work to his advantage with the diagnosis, we believe. And so it's still a learning curve. I mean, I think I will forever be a student of autism because I learn something new every single day.
Well, I was saying to you earlier, my son turned 20 recently, and I feel the same way. Because just when I think I get a handle on something, he grows and he changes, and now I have something new to learn. So I love that attitude. I think it's the right attitude. We talk about how there's so many different phases to when your child gets diagnosed, and that there is, for a lot of people, there's a period of grief, and then they move on, they kick into action. But might be some trailing grief. Do you have grief over the fact that that year that you lost after you went in to get the diagnosis, are you in a place where there is still grief about that, or have you been able to say that's not useful to me, I'm going to move forward?
I think initially feel a little guilty. I think that's one of the hardest things about being a parent is the mom and dad guilt is real. And I just kind of felt like I wish I would have pushed it a little more. But at the same time, when he got diagnosed, he was still only 3 years old. So I do feel like luckily we caught it young enough that we can really work with him and develop him and help him, have a better chance at functioning in this neurotypical world. And I think I'm still grieving in ways. I've accepted it, but now it's the caretaker burnout. I mean, I cannot tell you how exhausted I am and how much I did not anticipate that. I was a single mother. I would go to school full time and work and dance, and I've always been a hustler and busy. And this has by far been the hardest chapter in my life. I highly underestimated how hard it was to be a caretaker of an autistic child.
Yeah. And I want to say you're coming to us live from Utah, where hustler means something different than it means other places. So I just,
right. Thank you for clarifying.
You were a dancer and you danced for the Utah Jazz. You were a professional dancer and had, 2 boys of your own. Then later you married and now you guys are a blended family. So he came in with 2 children and now you have the youngest child together, correct?
Correct. So actually he came in with 3 children. We have 6 combined.
Oh my gosh. So you really are a Brady Bunch.
We're a Brady Bunch and very much a Utah Brady Bunch.
There we go. We love it.
So we decided we wanted to have this. He had three adult children when we got married, and I had my 2 younger teenage boys, and we decided we wanted to have a baby together. And we thought he would kind of be the glue for the family, which he is. And but what we didn't anticipate is that he would have neurodivergency. And it's interesting because we kind of had this ideal of what our life would be. We were going to travel with our, because when you have children later in life, the benefit is you're more established, you have more freedom and choices. And so we thought this child was going to be international. We were going to travel with him, and he was going to go to Oxford, and maybe those things will still happen, but life sure pivoted for us.
Yeah.
And I think everything happens for a reason, and you just never know. But I do believe whatever your divine power is, God, whatever that may be, they wouldn't give us this challenge if we couldn't handle it.
Wow.
And so I truly feel like this child was sent to us so we could grow. I see Earth as, I call it Earth School. I think we're here to learn very specific lessons. And I can already see how much I've evolved as a person in the last year, and my husband as well. And I know when all is said and done, we will look back on this diagnosis as a blessing.
Yeah.
And I don't mean for that to sound flippant, because I do know our child struggles, and nobody wishes that on their child. But I think you have to find the silver lining, or it can bury you.
Absolutely. I think that you're looking at it in a very mentally healthy way. And so people are going to ask, so talk to us a little bit about what avenues are you taking? What support are you getting now? What therapies have you decided to go with? And how is it going?
So right now he is in ABA therapy, and his, I believe they call it a prescription, is about 7 hours a day. So we are in the thick of it. I have someone come in pretty much full time every day, and they push him. They push him pretty hard. I didn't realize that for him, I thought it would be more it is play therapy, but I didn't realize how many markers he would be hitting and how much work it is to get there. So I think between the therapist and myself, we really try to sense if he's overstimulated. And about midday, he'll ask to go snuggle, which means we go upstairs in my bed, just he and I get him under the blankets. That tends to calm him down. And then by the end of the day, we kind of just give him a break. If he wants to take his clothes off, he can take his clothes off. If he wants to climb on the counter, and maybe that's not the healthiest approach, but I also feel, you got to trust your instincts as a parent. And I also feel like if I keep that black and white regimen routine, he's going to be overstimulated and unhappy. So I do try to give him a lot of those freedoms that the therapy does kind of not frown upon. I don't want to say frown upon, but, you know, I do try to give him a little bit more leeway. It's like a child coming home from school. You kind of let them do what they want for a little while. So we are doing that. And then our daughter-in-law just graduated in speech therapy. So she's going to come work with him on his speech. He is verbal. We do think he will be fully verbal. I don't know for sure, but that's kind of where it's headed.
Yeah.
And that was another thing I didn't realize, that autism is different for everybody. You know, I kind of thought there was this one idea of what autism is, and then it was either like a 1 out or a 10 on the spectrum. But I didn't realize how many kind of different variations and how kids react to things differently. Not everybody's antisocial. You know, I didn't understand what autism was. And so right now we're going to put him in speech therapy because he is behind on his speech. And then I work a lot with, I try to make sure I'm making healthy nutrition choices for him.
Good.
So I do a lot of research on foods that are great for neurodevelopment, and I'll try to sneak them in popsicles. Now he's figured that out. So now I try to like mix it in ice cream because that's his favorite treat. Or, you know, I'm constantly trying to get creative because the kid figures it out. If it's the wrong color, the wrong texture, he's not having it. So any of you moms that have advice on how to get your kids to eat those broccoli sprouts and blueberries and everything.
Oh, we've got all kinds of things for you. Got all kinds of things for you. I would love that. Wonderful. And so I guess the question we have to ask is, what was it like making the decision? Here you are, you're on this hit show, and I'm sure as a reality TV show, it's a little intrusive into your life. So I'm imagining that your family had a discussion and decided that this was okay to allow cameras into your home, but now you have your child diagnosed with something that's going to be as intensive as 7 hours of therapy a day, plus other things. Was it a hard decision? Was the whole family involved? Was it just you? What was that like, making the decision, saying, I'm going to step away?
Yeah, good question. Yes and no, it was hard. I think I was a part-time cast member. I was cast as a part-time cast member on Housewives. Partly, that's because everyone gets cast that way, and then you kind of work your way up to full-time.
Yeah.
For me, I preferred part-time because my children were not interested in doing the show, and I was not going to push them. So I was lucky in the sense that the cameras weren't as intrusive because they weren't there filming my children. They were only filming me and the other girls. Uh-huh. And then occasionally my husband would come along if he chose to. Whereas the other girls, they're filming the family, they're filming the husband, they're filming everything. And so it wasn't a huge adjustment that way because I already was a part-time cast member, only filming mostly my interaction with the other women.
Right.
But for me personally to make that choice, my husband was supportive either way. You know, luckily he's great that way. He just said, whatever makes you happy, I support. So ultimately it came down to me, and I think I wrestled with it for about a month. Producers came back to me and said, we want you back season 4. We would love to potentially make you a full-time cast member. We want to follow Hart's autism journey because I had shared the news with them.
Yeah.
And we want to see what that's like. And I actually, you know, I thought actually it might be a good opportunity to kind of show the world what it's like to raise a child with autism.
Yeah.
Because it's no joke. It is really hard and demanding, and I think so many people could relate to that. So there was a part of me for the community that did want to do it, but I knew at the end of the day, because those shows have a lot of drama in them, so much of my brain power would be in another place and not focused on my son. Yeah. And I'm sure, as I don't want to speak for you, but as you know, and a lot of other parents with autistic children know, your brain power is pretty important when you're raising a kid with special needs. Yeah. And I can barely function after 6 p.m. without filming the show, you know, just raising my children. And so I just didn't want something that was going to take me away from the healing and nurturing that Hart required of me.
Well, I think it's amazing and courageous and wonderful. I am going to say to you, I think that at some point somebody's going to come back and say, "Hey, we'd like to do this a different show, just showing this," and that maybe in a year's time, when you see a little bit more about how much progress he's going to make, you might be in that mode. So I hope you're doing home movies as much as possible right now, because those are going to be critical when you do that.
That's good. That's actually good advice. And I've had conversations, and people often ask me, "Would you ever go back to Housewives?" And never say never.
No, you're going to get your own show, Angie. That you're done with that. You're going to get your own show, so you don't need that.
I like that, and I would like to produce it, so I have final edit as well, Shannon.
There you go.
Let's
I'm
put
sure
that
that
out
can
there as
happen.
well.
Let's put that out into the universe. I believe in that.
I'm
And
all
I
about
said
sharing.
earlier that you're no stranger to neurodiversity. It's very touchy, but I don't know if you want to disclose that there are other people in the family, not with an autism diagnosis, but neurodiverse. Do you want to talk about that for yourself and others?
Sure, absolutely. Our family is filled with neurodivergency, myself included. I have ADHD. My 2 teenage sons have ADHD. Their father has ADHD. My husband's oldest son, born daughter, now son, is transgender. So he believes there could be some neurodivergency there that's undiagnosed, because typically the members of the trans community do have neurodivergency. So our family is riddled with it. And so it's kind of this beautiful mess of brains that come together and show each other unconditional love, because we're so different. We have to accept each other, If we're going to function as a family, we have to accept everybody and whatever they're dealing with. And so, I think my husband's probably the only neurotypical one. And he's kind of the glue.
He's the odd man out. That's okay. I do think that
he solves all our problems.
I do think that one of the things that's going to be helpful with autism is that they're going to teach you guys strategies that are also going to help with ADHD that everybody's going to benefit from. So I think having already done the strategies that you've done are going to help as you go back to treating the autism. I think it's going to be a very symbiotic thing. But you also have been no stranger to talking about the fact that you, like a lot of us, deal with anxiety on a regular basis. Do you want to talk about that just a little bit? Because I know that there are probably moms watching right now looking at you and thinking, yeah, but this lady's nothing, her insides are nothing like mine. Because you look like you have it all together, right? And we mistakenly think that that means this person is not struggling with anxiety. But can you talk to us a little bit about your personal anxiety?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's probably why I look like I have it all together, because I know I don't. There's a chance I'm subconsciously masking because I know my brain is really stressed out a lot of the time. I grew up with anxiety, and I just remember always feeling like I had this ball in my throat and I couldn't swallow, and I would go to school thinking I was going to throw up. And, I didn't understand at the time that was anxiety, because it wasn't as talked about when I was a child. I knew my grandmother had it. I knew it ran heavily in my family. There was never a conversation that I had it until I was probably 12 years old, and I went to summer camp with the church I was involved in at the time. And I couldn't function away from my mother. Like, it was debilitating. All these other girls were like enjoying it, canoeing, crafts, and I would just like a ball of nerves, get me home, get me in the environment I'm comfortable with. And every single year for 3 years I went to that camp, I would fake sick. I put my head by the fire to convince the camp leader I had a fever so I could go home. I mean, I think that's when my mom put it together that, yeah, I think you got anxiety, and I think we need to do something about it. So, yeah, I deal with it all the time. I'm an insomniac because my brain doesn't shut off. You lay down at night, and all those thoughts are racing in your head about how you're not doing this enough, you're not doing that enough. And then we added in Hart's autism diagnosis, and I feel like a failure probably 5 times a week. I mean, I'm not kidding you. And I know I'm a good mother. I know I give my very all and my very best, but I still feel like I'm failing somebody. whether it's my husband, whether it's my teenagers, whether it's the baby, whether it's myself and my career. I just feel spread so thin, and like I'm never gonna get it right. And it is such an overwhelming feeling sometimes. You know, at the end of the day, sometimes I'm a puddle of tears because I just feel, you know, it is so exhausting trying to figure out everybody's neurodivergency and what they need, including mine. And so it's something that is really forcing me to grow, but you know what, it nearly kills me.
Well, I just have to say that, you know, there's this phrase that we say, welcome to the community of people that you never thought you wanted to belong to, but once you get here, you're going to find it's filled with really amazing people. Yeah. So welcome to our community. Now you're one of the amazing people. I love that you are using your platform to shed light. It's so appreciated. It's not necessary. I want you to know that nobody has that expectation on you, but it's appreciated. But we are also here for you as a community. The viewers here and the whole autism community, myself, Dr. 𝗃𝗓𝗄𝗃, we're all here for you. We've been down this path, many of us. Some people are right where you are. I got to tell you, I give you an A+. I think you're hitting it out of the park. I think, you know, I was afraid you were going to tell, when you said 7, I thought you were going to tell me 7 hours a week of therapy, and I was going to tell you, no, you got to have more than that. And I think it's great that when therapy is over that you're letting him climb on the cabinets because, you know, he's a physical kid and you need to give him a physical outlet. And a lot of times with ABA, the thing that gets said is that people think, oh, well, we need consistency. Well, but what is the consistency? It's not necessarily that one-on-one thing. It's the consistency of being in an educationally enriched environment. So letting him physically climb on the cabinets, I'm going to tell you, you're hitting it out of the park, Angie. That's perfect. Let him do that. He's got to have, you know, work his yayas out. That'll help him with anxiety. So I think you're doing a great job. But we're here there are going to be things that you encounter along the way, because is he going to school yet?
No, in fact, that was another big sign we needed to get him tested again, because I took him to regular preschool, and this was before his diagnosis, and it was clear as day he was not like the other kids, more than ever. And that's when I was like, I just remember calling my husband and being like, Daddy, he's different. He is not like the other kids. He doesn't just go sit on the line and listen to a book. He was into all the teacher stuff while the other kids were at the table just coloring. And I remember feeling like I was the failure. Like somehow my parenting was lacking because he wasn't doing what the other kids were doing. So in a way, his diagnosis was somewhat of a relief and made so much sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, eventually he is going to go to school and you're going to have questions. And there are lots of different things, but know that we're all here. We're part of your community now, and we'll help you to support. And I'm sure that people will be writing in diet things and support. And I said to you earlier, I'm going to get my book sent off to you so that you can see, because I just wrote everything that I learned into a book and went there. So we'll get my book off to you. But you're really doing really well. So
thank you. And it's never meant more to hear I'm doing a good job than right now.
Well, you are.
I cannot tell you. Thank you.
You are. And you're able to get your hair done like this, because there are a lot of, like I was doing really good at some things, but I couldn't get the laundry done and I couldn't get my hair to look like that. Still can't. So,
well,
you know.
I went to the hairdresser today. It just happened to be my hair day, so this is good time.
Well, there you go. I recently shaved my head on the show to raise money for iPads, so I get a pass for at least a couple of months.
That's amazing. Very cool.
So nobody can tease me about my hair because I did it for iPads. So there we go.
There you go.
But anyway, such a pleasure to meet you. Congratulations on everything that you're getting done. And I think you're going to be amazed at how well he's going to do and all the things. I think he probably is going to go to Oxford or to someplace else that's even better for him. So it's all going to work out. Says the ghost of Christmas future.
Perfect.
Having been there, done that, you know, I mean, I know in the beginning I thought, I remember going to the park and seeing other families there with their kids, and the teenagers were just running around and doing stuff with each other. And I remember thinking, we'll never have that. We are never going to have that. And we absolutely had that. We absolutely had that, and so much more. So sky's the limit. He's going to teach you. He's going to teach all of us. But you're doing all the right things. So
thank you, dear. I appreciate it.
You are. He's going to be fabulous. And the fact that he is already talking and he's getting that much therapy, he is going to be fully verbal. Statistically, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Great.
Yep.
That's great to hear. And see, I learn something new every day.
Yeah. It used to be that it was like 18% of the autism community would get fully verbal, and the rest were not, right? And now that number has flipped dramatically, and now it's maybe 16% of the autism community does not become fully verbal, and those children more often than not have something called apraxia, which means that at this point, they would not be able to produce words. So if he's producing words and you're getting good therapy, there's no reason to think that he would not be fully verbal. So you're doing all the right things.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well, stay in touch. Let us know when you need something, and we'll look forward, about this time next year. You will have your own show.
Oh,
That's going to happen.
I mean, we'll see. Okay.
All right.
Let's go.
And we will look forward to that. But do take the home movies, because when you go to produce it, you're going to need those to show where you started.
No, absolutely.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Give everybody in your family a hug from us, all right?
Of course. Likewise.
All right. You take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.